We now welcome our esteemed guest of honor for the day, Mr. Anurag Walia, VP, Tata Communications. I would request, sir, to please come up on the stage. Sir is currently the Vice President and Head, PMO, Global Enterprise Solutions at Tata Communications. Sir is responsible for sales strategy execution and driving incremental revenues by running high-impact cross-functional programs with the objective of gaining market share in large enterprise businesses in India and Asia Pacific. Sir is also responsible for synergy program between Tata Group telecom companies. Sir is also leading initiatives like the Smart City and has responsibly led a cross-functional team to win the RFP for being the ICT service provider to India's first operational Smart City, GIFT. Sir has a strong sales background and has served in roles such as National Head for Channel Strategy, Zonal Head for Channel Sales, Solution Architect, etc. Sir, we welcome you to Communique'14. I would now request, sir, to please address the audience.
Yeah, thanks for this welcome. I feel privileged, I feel honored to be here. My association with SITM is a bit old. I'm visiting this campus for the second time, and I've been to the old campus multiple times. And while, yes, we heard a lot of good things about SITM, and those things came from the students, from Professor Patil. But let me acknowledge, as somebody who doesn't belong to SITM, that yes, I do agree with whatever has been spoken about SITM. I'm witness to many of those things. My personal experience with many of the SITM alumni reinforces that whatever has been spoken about, it's all true. I've worked with many people from SITM. They have been part of my team. Some of them have been my colleagues. And I've seen some common traits among all of them. I've seen a lot of positivity. I've seen a lot of passion in these people. And I'm sure all these 1,800 people we spoke about, they have built a legacy. And they have left that legacy for many of the SITM students over here. So that's acknowledging the facts, and it's good to acknowledge that. Now, let me come back to the case study which I'll be presenting today. The case study is on a telecom company. And I thought that rather than talking about technology, let me build a case study which is relevant. So and it's a real case study, it's not like just created for the purposes of presenting. It's a real world case study of a telecom company. And I feel the concepts will be the ones which will be used across. So you guys will be able to relate to them, and you will also be able to utilize them in your career. That's the intent. So we are calling this company XYZ Limited. And let's see what this XYZ Limited is all about. Okay, so this is what I'll do. So first of all, we will just look at the company, its profile, so that we are able to relate to and connect to the company. Then we will get into the problem statement. What was the challenge which was being faced? Then we will look at the solutioning done, the challenges faced while we try to execute that strategy. And then what happened later? What were the results? And so on. So let's start with the company profile. This is the profile of XYZ Limited. Let me move to the other side, actually. Okay, so if we look at this company was a monopoly at one point of time, 100% market leader, owned by government. And then a group took this company and got the management control. This happened in year 2002. Moving ahead on the timeline, the company acquired a very large voice carrier, a leading voice carrier in the world, and became a very large voice carrier itself. It also acquired another company which had the largest submarine cable system in the world. So that was another expansion of this company. It further acquired some other companies in the domain of cloud services, in the domain of CDN. So that was kind of completing the portfolio. They adopted a strategy of creating a second home market outside India. So it was an India company which was going out, going global. They choose South Africa as a market and said that we will create South Africa as our second home market. So this is what the company is. So what we see is that it's a company. From a monopoly, it became a multinational company, a India out company, starting from India and expanding a lot. So it looks like profile of a highly ambitious company. So a company which was a 100% India company, and we are talking of 2002, so almost some 14 years back. These are the statistics as of today. So in 14 years, from a 100% Indian company, which was operating only in India, this is what the company has turned out to be now. So the company has today almost 8,000 employees, out of which 30% employees are outside India. And these comes from 40 different nationalities. So a company which had only Indians today has people working from 40 different nationalities. And from one home market of India, it has expanded to two home markets, India and South Africa. This is the business of the company, and which tells us about the size at which this company operates, the scale at which it operates. It carries almost 50 billion minutes of international voice traffic, got 44 data centers across the world, and almost, so while there are some numbers, in terms of simplifying it, 1/5 or 20% of the entire internet traffic in the globe travels through its backbone. And this is the market position. So the company is number one in India enterprise. Has the biggest submarine cable network, carries the largest number of voice minutes as a voice carrier, number 2 in the second home market, which is South Africa, and number 5 on the global IP transit. This is a high level operating structure, and just to know this company a lot more, this is how the company is structured in terms of different business units. So we have a business unit which focuses on the enterprise business, another business unit which focuses on service providers, the third one around data and mobility, which deals with carriers, and then there is a separate business unit which works on ventures which are called growth ventures. So with the business which is small, but which holds a big potential for the future. And all these business units are supported by a shared platform of functions within the company. And this is the product portfolio of the company. So if you look at the boxes, so these products are multiple and they can be clubbed under different boxes like collaboration, content, IT infrastructure, mobility, connectivity optimization, and pure connectivity services. So this kind of completes the profile of this company. We looked at the size, we looked at the transformation from being a completely Indian company to a global telecom player, the size at which it operates, the market positions which it holds in different businesses. We also learned about the first home market of India, second home market of South Africa, and the product portfolio. So things are all looking good, right? It's a good position to be in. But is that the reality? Or is there a problem? So let's look at that. How did the problem surfaced? So until September 2010, like all companies, this company also used to build its AOP, used to plan that, okay, what numbers we are going to chase for the year, what revenues we are going to get the next year, what will be our what will be our revenue growth, and to be able to do that, what all orders we will have to get from our customers, what profits we will aim for in the next year, and so on. What happened differently in September 2010 was, so this was an inward focus, right? Setting targets and achieving them. And if you achieve them, you feel good about them. If you don't, you feel disappointed and then you try to work harder. From this inward focused view, there was a study done in terms of looking at it from an outside in view. If we are doing well, let's also see how do we look when we start looking at it from an outside in perspective. And when that was done, suddenly this position of being the number one in India enterprise was found to be under threat. And this was a threat which was a serious threat to the company, because the company which started as being the 100% stakeholder, or the company which had 100% market share, and obviously that was supposed to decline with like the market getting opened, multiple players coming in, but never ever the company thought that it can be a number two in this market. It was kind of a assumed position that yes, we were number one and we will remain number one forever. And business was also growing, revenues was moving up, so customers were also saying that yes, you guys are good. And suddenly when it was found that there are challenges, while yes, we are number one, but the way we are moving, we may not remain number one for long. And if the company doesn't remain number one in its primary home market, the whole strategy of going to second home market and then with the aspiration of creating a third home market, all those comes under a question mark. So this is how the numbers were looking. So what we see in these green bars is the revenue which is moving up and which is a positive trend. So year on year revenues are growing up, but the line at the top is the problem. So while revenues are growing up, the market share is declining. And why does it happen? So it happens when the market is growing at a rate which is higher than your own rate of growth. So if you are growing at 10% and market is growing at 15, you are losing market share. If you grow at 15, market grows at 20, you still lose market share. Right? So the moment you start looking at it from a market perspective, suddenly the performances doesn't look the way they used to look like. And since this is a trend not of 1 year, but of last 3-4 years, reversing it will mean some fundamental changes. Just by doing something which you are doing, or by doing it more rigorously, by doing it more, will not be able to change the trend. It may arrest the trend, but it will not be able to reverse it. So what, and we are talking of FY10 at 18%. So the market share which was 100% at some point of time, and that may not remain relevant with the market getting opened up. But the market share continuously fell down and came all the way up to 18%. And the way revenues were projected, the growth was projected, it looked like that in the next year, the market share will move from 18 to 17 and from 17 to 16. And there had been a continuous trend of declining market share by 1 percentage point every year. At the same point of time, while it doesn't capture what competition's market share was, The gap between competition or the competitor who was number 2 and XYZ Limited was only 2 percentage points in 2010. And competition had a reverse market share graph, so their market share was moving year on year. So in a matter of 1 year or at max 2 years, it was evident that if both these companies keep on doing what they were doing, number 2 will become number 1 and number 1 will become number 2. They will change places in maximum 2 years. So it means if something has to be done, it has to be done now. And if you don't do it now, and once you become number 2, you start losing your credibility, and it will become a matter of time when you become from number 2 to number 3 and may even become irrelevant after a few years. So a serious problem. So this is what was done. Obviously, this was a problem which was big. This problem was presented to the management committee. There is a global management committee in XYZ Limited. And few of the points which were kind of accepted were that yes, our BAU growth or business as usual growth will not be able to help us reverse the trend. It may at best help us arrest the trend. Secondly, the urgency of the problem. So yes, we have to do it right now. We have to act. And to do that, a team was formulated which was a cross-functional team. The ownership was given to the enterprise business head to come out with their recommendations and to recommend what needs to be done to reverse this trend of declining market share. A plan was built that, okay, the graph at the bottom tells you that yes, while the market share will decline in the current year, you can't change it right now, but we need to arrest it, and the next year we want to reverse the trend and move the market share by 2%, and that was a kind of expression of intent, that this is what we want it to be. And then take it upward from there, so we will not let it fall beyond 17% was the intent. And now this is the strategy which was formed to meet the intent. So the team which was formed, it obviously looked at multiple alternatives, multiple options. There were deep dives which were done, views from all the way up to the last sales guy was taken to understand what is it which needs to be enabled. People who are bringing business, how they can get more from the market. If business comes, and this is a segment in which orders which comes from customers, they need to be implemented before they turn into revenue, and there are long lead times. So for a larger order, it may take even few months to deliver and convert it into revenue. And finally, the market positions changes basis the revenues which all these service providers are declaring to the market and to the analysts. So if you look at the options, there were multiple options in terms of looking at specific competition, going after competition. Should we drop prices? Should we become a price leader or offer the services at the lowest price to acquire market? And that's also a strategy which companies play with. Should we put more resources on the ground? Should we double our sales team to be able to double the numbers, what we are getting from the market? Should we look at expanding our network and get into the cities which are where we are not present or our network is not present? Should we look at what is it which number 2 and number 3 players are doing? What different are they doing which makes them gain market share while we are losing it? Are there some niche players who are playing in certain specific products and creating a success story? And if they can do it, why can't we do it? What are the learnings which we can adopt? And also to look at building internal efficiencies, how we can be more aligned. Do we have disconnects? Do we have lack of alignment within the organization where different groups are working basis their own matrices And while everybody looks good individually for their own functions, but as a whole, a company is not really doing so well the moment you start looking at it from an outside-in perspective. And the answer to them, to all these points was that yes, we'll have to do almost all of them. A single thing will not give us those results. And to act on almost all of them, except the ones like offering very high discounts and all, to be able to grab competition, because this was the time when this company was also on its path to profitability. So this company was going through a phase where it was, because of the expansion it did, and it invested a lot, creating a second home market. And telecom, as you all understand, is a field in which the payback periods are very long. So this was the time when company was also focused on building profitability, ensuring that the company becomes EBITDA positive. So there was a lot of pressure on the cost. So the enterprise business didn't have the luxury of offering the services at the cheapest possible prices, or options like doubling the sales team to get double the numbers. So those were some of the constraints which we had. So now, with a combination of all of these, it was essential to set it up as a program and not only as a project, because there are multiple projects as part of this program. It was created as a 2-year program with this objective of gaining 3% market share, with 2% in year 1 and 1% in year 2. It was backed up with investment on the network expansion. So the network, which was present only in almost 8 to 10 cities, was expanded to 40 cities. And an investment of close to 350 crores was committed and was done to be able to help sales team to win customers at the back of network. A program management office was constructed to hold this program together, to be able to work with multiple functions, to bring alignment to the objectives. A lot of branding was done internally to be able to ensure that yes, everybody is aligned to it, everybody understands that how they can contribute to this program. Different tracks were constructed which were called projects. Each project again had sub-projects or sub-tracks which were called initiatives. Each of these initiatives were supposed to bring incremental outcomes over and above the BAU back to the organization. So it means while the core team will continue doing what they were doing, there were incremental programs which were launched, each with an incremental outcome. And each of these initiatives or project tracks were detailed a lot. Milestones were set, there were lead indicators, lag indicators. How do we know something is going off track? So it was absolutely done in the way a large program is executed. So now, was it easy? So conceptually it looks good, right? There is a problem, there is a possible solution also. But when you run programs like this, is it easy to execute them? A program which has investments which will result into network rollout, to ensure that the network rollout is happening in the cities which are of relevance, in the clusters within cities which will make business sense. For the first time, the network was rolled out in a closed collaboration of the network and the sales teams. Otherwise, network will get rolled out by one team basis where they see business, and when you build network, the sales team will come and say that business lies somewhere else, and it's a classic problem. Now, ensuring all these functions starting from the network planning to engineering to service delivery, service assurance, everybody being aligned to business was a big challenge. And there was obviously an inertia in terms of, because everybody was doing good. And as I said earlier, respective functions were doing good because the targets were set and everybody was meeting them. So to be able to ensure that people do see this challenge, and the evaluation matrices for the success of different functions also changes and link it back to the way market is moving, companies' market share is moving, was something which was not easy. But finally that alignment was brought. There were cross-functional teams which were created. And the ownership, while the main steering force was the sales team which owned the project, on many of these tracks the ownership lied with the other functions, be it service delivery, be it service assurance, be it engineering, be it product. And that brought a lot of alignment. The program had the management sponsorship, so it had the visibility at the right levels. Wherever bottlenecks were faced, management support was there to be able to eliminate those bottlenecks. And all these things helped roll out the project, and the program moved. So in October 2011, so almost in a year, the company witnessed the first sign of success. The trend was arrested, and it was shown that yes, now the market share has started moving upwards. And while it was a small number, but for the first time it's like moving the needle in the opposite direction. It was very important. There was more rigor which was put in with that early success, more focused approach. Many other initiatives were launched. There were specific tracks targeting a specific competition, a specific product lines. And finally, in year 2013, this is how the picture started looking. So in first year, the company gained market share by 1 percentage point. And in the second year, the market share gain was 2%. So the company had been able to gain 3 percentage market point in 2 years' time, a company which had a declining market share. So suddenly the trend got reversed. And also a good thing to note is, in the corresponding period, no other company gained more than 1 percentage market share. So the gap between the number 1 company and the number 2 company, it widened. So the threat of becoming number 2 was kind of taken care of because the gap widened between the 2 companies. But that was only a 2-year story. And now once you start getting this success, you want to get it more. And this company was no different. They also, while the initial target was to be able to reverse the trend, gain few percentage market share, but then the aspirations grew. And the point was that, okay, we want to gain more market share, now we want to hit 25% market share and so on. But to be able to do that, will the kind of things which this team had been doing, kind of managing it as a program, will those things keep on giving those results? And the answer was no. So whatever starts as being incremental, being an initiative, slowly it becomes part of BAU. So the impact is not incremental anymore. So you start getting the incremental benefits for year 1, year 2, and that's it. And then it becomes part of your business, it becomes part of the DNA of the organization. If there is a new way of doing business, then people do adopt that, and then it becomes their default way. And improving efficiencies at the beginning is easy, but then continuously increasing efficiencies beyond a point, it becomes difficult. So the point is, what should we do now? If we have aspirations of gaining now 2 percentage market share every year, then there has to be something more to do. So the program was reinvented. And what was done was to look at each and every initiative, look at which of these things have stayed relevant, will be able to give incremental outcomes, which of these tracks will not be able to give us incremental outcomes, either because those tracks have become irrelevant or the market positions have changed. Whatever the market constituent was at the beginning would have changed. Some players would have come in the market. Some players would have kind of moving out of the market. New services are getting introduced in the market as well, which may have a higher potential. So the moment you start taking a product view, some products are growing faster, some products are going slower, so some products are on a decline. So to be able to see which are the products which are growing faster, where you can do well, and which can help you, fulfill your ambitions of being a market leader, increasing the market share. So there have been products like MPLS VPN, which was the highest growing product, both in terms of the size as well as the growth rate. At the same point of time, there were product lines like IPL, NPL, which were kind of declining. So even if you put more efforts, you may not get the incremental results. Also, there were new products like Ethernet, which were small by value, but had the highest growth rate. So if you invest in a product like Ethernet, then in few years, it has the promise to give you the maximum return. So looking at all these ideas, the initiatives were relooked and a wave 2 was launched. And from a goal of only chasing market share, other dimensions were also added to the program, like working on customer experience. How do we improve our customer experience? How do we ensure that the company remains profitable? So profitability and customer experience were added as two more dimensions to the existing dimension of increasing market share. So from a one-dimensional program, it became a three-dimensional program. And then the initiatives were also rebuilt across all these three dimensions. So it did not remain only a sales-focused, acquire more orders kind of program. It also started looking at the elements of profitability. How can we reduce on our cost? How can we build on higher efficiencies? How can we get more out of the same investments? Also, in terms of customer experience, a separate team was constructed, which started meeting customers, started creating standards on how customer experience can be defined, how it can be benchmarked against the best in the industry, where are we on that journey, and what do we need to do to be able to become a standard in ourselves on customer experience. So with these, in year 3 also, the company had been able to gain 2% market share. So it means in 3 years, the company gained 5 percentage points in the market share, and which is a big achievement for the company. And in the 4th year, company aspires to grow again by 2 percentage market points. And the market I'm talking about is enterprise data market in India. So this is it from my side. It was a kind of a glimpse of what happened in a real company, in real environment, and how the company has been able to come out of it, had been able to reverse the trend. I haven't gone granular into certain initiatives and project tracks because I thought it will become too granular. But I'll be happy to answer anything which you would like to know more. I'll be happy to answer that. Thank you. Yes, so all questions are welcome. So as people say, there are no wrong questions. So, and even if there are questions outside this presentation, I'll be happy to answer them as well, to the best of my ability. Yes.
Telecom, which was earlier VSNL. So,
Okay, that's a nice guess. Okay.
no, actually, in 2002, Tata Group bought the 45% share that I was aware of. So my question is, you talked about the turnaround, but I want to know how regulation was stopping you from bringing the turnaround, and how, like in India, the regulations are very strangulating. The telecom policies are like that. So how you cope up with that, and you brought the turnaround for this company?
Okay, thank you. Good question and a good guess as well. So, in terms of regulatory challenges, yes, there are regulatory challenges in India, which makes it slightly tougher to operate for all telecom players compared to the way business happens for the same set of services outside India and many other markets. But there are some markets which are far more stringent than India as well. So we are not the best, but we are not like at the back of it. There have been many regulatory changes which have happened in the last 10 years, which have kind of opened the sector. So, and one of the key challenges which all telecom players face is in terms of ability to engage with partners who can sell their products. So while in some advanced markets, you can collaborate with large system integrators who can sell your services to the end customers and can invoice them as their own services, or they can add some of their products on top of it and then can sell it to the end customers. In India, the telecom players have to invoice the customers, have to provision the customers themselves. So it means they have to be directly in touch with the customers, so which puts pressure in terms of on their ability to reach out to the customers. So their ability becomes directly proportional to the size of the sales teams and the coverage which they have. Their ability to use other partners to be able to reach to large markets or large customer base, it becomes limited. But having said that, since that's a challenge which is not only with this company but all other companies as well, so we all operate in the same market, in the same constraints. So on a relative scale, it doesn't really puts a pressure in terms of being able to gain market share because everybody faces the same challenges. But yes, if those regulatory changes can be made, then all companies will be able to grow faster. Yes, please.
Hello, my name is Giri, and wonderful presentation. I learned a lot from what you said. What I want to know is, are these key learnings being shared with your cousins within Tata's, TTSL, or because they seem to be struggling because they're number 5 or number 6 in the access market share. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and that's a good question, very good question actually. And so one of my, in fact, let me put it the other way around. One of the key tasks which I handle is also working on synergy between Tata Communications and Tata Teleservices. So I become a kind of bridge between the two organizations. We have started working very closely. So there is a synergy program wherein both these companies have come together. And this synergy is not only around the network. It started from there, where both the companies started kind of using each other's network, started avoiding building network. Wherever one network is present, the second company will not build, and so on. But we have brought alignment in terms of the sales synergies as well. There is a segmentation which has been worked out, and it has been decided, and that's how we operate, that all large enterprises, the market which I was referring to, will be front-ended by Tata Communications, whereas the SME market will be led by Tata Teleservices, because they are a company which is like much larger. They have a bigger presence in terms of their people, their teams. So Tata Teleservices is leading on to that front. There are many changes which people within Tata Teleservices are able to witness, that many things which are changing at the back of the model of TCL. So if somebody who left, let's say Tata Teleservices 2 years back, and if the person would have come to TCL, and if he goes back to TTSL, he will find it to be like almost like TCL today. The way they do business, the way modeling has been done, the enablement to the teams, the systems, everything is kind of getting mirrored on the back of the learnings of TCL. So that's being done. Yes, there is a lot more to achieve. That's also a point. But at least the starting has been good. Yeah, please. I have all the time, so I don't know how much time I've been allocated, but yes, I'm good.
Was it easier for Tata Communications to do it because you're not in the spectrum mad race? Because being an access provider, maybe other operators are in the mad rush to acquire spectrum, and spectrum prices keep rising exponentially every year. Thank you.
In fact, that had impact on us as well, because almost 70%, 65 to 70% of the revenue still comes from the network services, and the others come from managed services like data center services, voice services, and so on for us, what we call enterprise voice. The moment you look at the network services, you will be able, or you can only get successful in network services if you have a robust network of your own. Then only you will be able to price your services commercially, which are kind of good to sell to the customer. The moment you have dependency on others in terms of being availing their last mile solutions and then packaging it in the package and offering it to the customer, many times you become commercially uncompetitive. So when we started looking at expanding our network, the expansion was done on two fronts, on the fiber side as well as on the RF side. On fiber, we expanded our network to 40 cities. On WiMAX, we expanded our network to 230 cities. Now, while we did not got into that spectrum rush, but what has happened is the spectrum prices were changed. So the spectrum which was costing us X, in 2 years' time, suddenly it started costing us 4X. So the entire dynamics changed for the WiMAX sites which we had put in. And on one side, while we were into the like network expansion mode, acquiring more customers, on the other hand, we had to start a program to take off our WiMAX base stations. So we started shrinking our WiMAX network. That was the impact of that spectrum thing on us, and started replacing it by either other service providers or by putting like the base stations in the free band. And free band comes with its own challenges in terms of being able to give that kind of service assurance to the customers, especially in cities which are kind of tier 3, tier 4 cities. So it becomes a big problem. So we face that challenge, and we are still facing it. So there was a separate program which we ran, in which we finally kind of took off almost 1,000 base stations from the ground. And it became a huge cost saving for us. And as I said, the market share cannot be gained at the back of profitability. So that was one key element around which we had to work. Yes, is there any other question for me? Okay, one from the back, yes. So which tells me that the audience was also kind of engaged with the presentation, and that's a feel-good factor.
Sir, can you tell me more about the outside-in approach? How is it done? That in building us,
sure.
Seeing the market and all.
Okay, yeah. So the inside-out approach was obviously setting up the targets and then chasing those numbers, and then looking at whether you have been successful or you have not been successful. When we started looking at the outside-in perspective, we took help of analysts who track market very closely. we built a picture on how us and how competition had been doing over last few years. There are revenues for each of these companies which gets reported, and there are analysts which do a good work in terms of tracking the India telecom market. A product-wise view was created that, okay, if there are 10 key products, how the market is moving for each of these 10 products, what is the growth rate which is defined as CAGR for each of these products, how they have been behaving in the past, and what is the predicted growth rate for each of these product lines for next 5 years. And then how each of the competition is doing across each of these product lines. And then where have we lost market share, where we are kind of static, where we have gained market share, which are the products which will offer growth, which are the products which will actually go down. So it means if we have to grow, then we have to grow it at the back of certain product lines. And then those products which were identified were like MPLS I spoke about, which had the largest share both in terms of value as well as it was showing very high growth rates. The second product was Ethernet. The third was data center products like co-location and managed hosting. So these were some of the key products around which the program was built, and the network was also expanded to be able to us to sell VPN services. And when we started the program, we were number 4 in VPN services in India. Today, we are number 1. So while we have gained the market share, in this process, we have also gained market leadership positions across certain product lines. So that's how the view was created and was helpful for us to be able to build our strategy around certain product lines. Thank you. Okay, so if there are no further questions, then I'm done. Thank you for being a wonderful audience.
Thank you, sir. It was a privilege to have you here at SITM today. We now request you to please take your seat amongst the audience.